So, let me say it again, Cam. I may be a superhero, but I'm also just a man who fell in love with the wrong woman. And I am very excited for everyone to meet the real me.
There's something wrong with Homelander. Something broken. He's lost his fucking mind.
Love, mommy, daddy, and Abu.
But real power isn't this. It's the ability to bend the world to your will.
I think I have something. Maybe we can use it to blow Homelander's fucking brains out.
What's this?
Makes you a soup for 24 hours. You're gonna need it.
No one should have that kind of power.
For once, I'll level the fucking playing field.
I show people the real me. I mean, they fucking love me.
Hi guys, welcome to the Hangout Room. My name is Zoe. I'm with my boys today, Lelo and our new friend Richard.
Hey guys, what's up? Today we're talking about The Boys season 3. I will say this season, for me personally, is near perfect. I feel like they might have dropped the ball a little bit in the last episode, but I'm interested to hear what you guys think of it.
Almost like there's two sides to it. There's what the sort of like vote wants the world to see of them and who they really are, which is sort of like messed up. And it's almost like a juxtaposition to America. It's almost like Americans want to be seen as, the dream place that everyone wants to come to, but it has its own flaws internally in terms of like race, inequality and all of that. And one thing I liked about this season, it's almost like with all the characters, it's almost like there's something that's challenging them. And that's always nice to see, in terms of the characters. And there's lots to talk about concerning that because there's some characters that are going through a lot and new characters being introduced. So that's going to be awesome to chat about.
I feel like when it comes to A-Train, they just made it worse. But then again, it's just a reflection of reality, especially when A-Train is talking about the guy who is over-policing the Black community, and he just doesn't care.
To the residents of Trenton, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today. As you know, superheroes often have to make, split-second decisions when fighting crime, and I apologize if any of mine have been perceived as being racist, but that is not who I am, okay? Just ask my friends, many of whom are black. Like A-Train, I do not see color.
That's basically what you see in real life, where people just think getting on TV, getting on social media, making a statement, sending an apology, donate money, go to some racism rehab somewhere, and the problem is resolved and everybody moves on and social media moves on. So it's hard to criticize the boys on how they handle A-Train segment because it's literally what happens in real life.
Follow one proud black man's journey to the root of his roots as he takes the A-Train to Africa.
It's hard to criticize them for following that route because Black Americans do the same thing all the time. I have a problem. I'm going to go to Africa.
Samuel L. Jackson doesn't want to be around if Donald Trump wins the general election. If Trump were to become president of the United States of America, Samuel L. Jackson would move to South Africa.
And I love how the boys stay on trend when they just keep mirroring society in everything they do.
When it comes to A-Train, I like that this season A-Train actually got a lot more focus, even though it's still A-Train. He's still a piece of shit. Like, he doesn't... He's not suddenly a good person, so I like that the character still stayed the character. I don't need him to suddenly become a good person. He can still be a piece of what, but I like that they went deeper into it. It's not just on the surface now. Like, we saw more of his relationship with his brother. We saw him actually trying to do right, even though it was very superficial and it's very on the surface with that.
You get a public apology, Vought gets some publicity. It's a win-win.
But in typical A-Train fashion, even when he's trying to do something good, he messes it up and makes it 10 times worse. So I'm okay with bad characters staying bad as long as they're three-dimensional, they put the depth into it, they give them the screen time. So I like that this season they're like, okay, let's criticize the fake corporate woke culture of like Black Lives Matter, we can fix everything. And I'm like, yeah, you can still keep it the boys, you can still keep everyone evil, but you can go deeper into your black characters. Even Mother's Milk, I feel like he got more depth this season.
I like how deep they went with him, because I always wondered, like, why is he so tough and where is his trauma coming from?
One night, there was a ruckus outside. I looked out the window, and it was Soulja Boy. And so I run, wake up my granddad. Grandpa, it's Soulja Boy. Come look. Soulja Boy takes the Benz, and he hurls it through our house like a fucking freight train. It missed me by about 6 inches. But my grandpa, one minute he was there, and then he wasn't. And I woke him up. I put him in that spot.
And I like how the story was told, his trauma, everything. It was beautiful to see and get to know him a little bit deeper. Didn't like when his best friend, the asshole, did to him. Like, how do you drag your own friend?
You fucking roofied him?
It was pretty interesting because in a lot of what we're seeing doing, it's almost like he's doing what's best for sort of like his team.
What'd you do? I know you're never gonna forgive me. But you left me no choice.
And it's almost like he's inconsistent in that, because with Huey, it's almost like he sort of like lets him take the drug.
3 to 5 doses kills you. You need to tell Huey.
So it's almost like he is in a confliction of character moving back and forth. And we're seeing Homelander sort of like also have that internal battle of, should I be myself? Will I be accepted? As the season goes on, we're obviously seeing that he's starting to see that his real self is being liked, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I don't think the fans understand the can of worms that just opened, because now he's going to be unstoppable. And his son is there watching. It's like, now you have Homelander the asshole, and now he's training his kid to be the next Homelander 2.0. I say disaster for season 4.
Yeah, no, definitely. Homelander this season, for me personally, continues to be the best thing about the show. Like, even though he's the worst character, I think from the first episode of season 1, I was like, okay, this dude's amazing. What he's doing with this role, the actor is fantastic. Like, every time he does that thing where like the camera goes on or off and his fake smile goes on or off, it's so chilling, and his eyes are just like dead. Like, he's perfect. I think he's the best part about the show, and I like what they did with him this season. It's weird because Homelander, even though he's so evil, he's got this like desperate need for either love or some sort of approval or attention.
Part of you is a dirty, shriveled, anemic little part of you that still mules for approval and love and a mommy and a daddy and boo hoo hoo.
And it's strange because it's like, okay, you can't help but feel a little bit sorry for him because he was raised in a lab.
What kind of place did you grow up in?
He doesn't have any parents. It's literally like he's a product. Like, he's literally made by a corporation in a laboratory to be like sold and used for their own purposes. So it's like the idea that he wants love and he wants a family, he wants a son. It's very endearing, but then he's just the worst human being ever. So that interesting chemistry between those two parts of him, I think this season they explored it in a really cool way. And just like you said, the way it ends, I feel like it's good this season, but what they've set up for next season is going to be the true test, because it seems like it's going to be nuts.
Yeah. For a second there, you had me feeling sorry for Homelander, which what actually happens when I'm watching the show. He pulls on my heartstrings, especially that moment when he realizes that he has a father. I'm like, wait a minute, are we getting the Star Wars "I am your father" moment?
Pretty much.
And we got it. Another thing I wanted to talk about is the theme. Did you guys notice that this season they have the social media theme to the point where Vault, the social media page, is tweeting a lot and is tweeting as if they are in a real life world existing amongst us?
Yeah, I mean, it's really evident to see how much social media has an effect on the show. And like I said, I think the boys is doing a good job to sort of like depict of what's happening in real life as well. And I mean, looking at Homelander, I think the difference between him and his sort of like predecessor, which is Soldier Boy, is Soldier Boy didn't have social media. You know, it's almost like there was nothing stopping him from being, from almost killing everyone and being himself. But we see with Homelander that it's almost like he was conditioned to care about social media and what people think about him, and that sort of like is what's controlling him and stopping him from, possibly blowing the earth into bits.
You walk. That's next.
Good luck with that. Now that you've told my 190 million followers, I'm still pretty famous.
Hey, everybody.
That's me. I gotta go.
Starlight. What? You're not supposed to record us when we're running lines?
It's almost like he really sees social media and how people view him as important. But he's the toughest person in the planet. Why does he care what people think about him? Because if he wants, just like that, he could blow people up. So it's almost like it's nice to see that there's almost something that's sort of like controlling or sort of like, blackmailing him to not do super bad stuff.
He has that conversation with himself in the mirror, and that other self says as much. I think he says there's a part of you that's still human, that still wants love and still wants these people. But that reflection version of him said, we need to cut that out and we need to kill that part of you.
Look at me. We gotta cut that part of you out like a cancer. Well, then, my boy, you can finally be who you were always meant to be.
So, what do you guys think? Where does this go from here? Do you think there is a path to redemption for Homelander? Or do you think this man's just going off the rails and eventually we're going to have to kill him?
After killing that man in public view and people cheering on for him, I just don't see redemption. A floodgate is open. Do whatever you want to do. And if he can control what people see on social media, then there will be nothing stopping him. I think will come a point where people will literally just have to put him down. But how do you put down Homelander? I feel like the day you put down Homelander is the day that the boys come to an end.
I think even as us humans, it's almost like it is important to have that thing that's sort of like stopping you from maybe doing bad things, like potentially like prison or being judged by family and friends. And I think Homelander losing that and his evilness sort of like being accepted, and we're seeing it's almost like his son as well is sort of like seeing that, hang on, if my father's doing a bad thing and they love him for it, that means I can be, as bad or more bad, maybe people will like me more. And, I think at a young age, if he experiences that, who knows what monster he could turn out to be, probably twice or 100 times more scary as Homelander,
Yeah, definitely. Keeping things in the Homelander family, as we've spoken about already, the introduction of his dad with the Soldier Boy. Every time they said Soldier Boy, all I heard was, you do.
Me too!
Exactly, every single time, every time. But yeah, no, speaking of Soldier Boy, what did you guys think of this new character? I actually like the actor. I've seen him in other things before, and I think it was an interesting character. It was interesting that he was like comparably as well, I guess he doesn't fly, he doesn't have laser eyes, but he's about as strong as Homelander. But as we've spoken about, he really doesn't care about his image. Like everyone else in this new age of superheroes is very social media conscious, very media conscious, very conscious of how people view them. But he really didn't care. It was like, I'm just here to like have fun and do what I want to do and get revenge off my team that screwed me over. And I thought that was refreshing.
I think Soldier Boy is just reminding us that he grew up in a time where social media was not a thing. Because when we see him walking down in Manhattan, he's seeing gays and he's shocked, like he's confused. He's just like the olden day kind of a person. Because I mean, he is old as hell. So it's that thing of just like, if you were not raised with social media time, you don't care for it. Social media doesn't control you, it doesn't exist to you. So I like that about him.
When I look at Soldier Boy, it's almost like he's the depiction of potentially old America in terms of, you know, the conservative views they had. You know, he has this scruffy personality, he swears a lot, you know, he's quite, you know, traditional and sort of like I said, a real depiction of the old America.
Strange for me. Maybe it makes sense for Mother's Milk because he literally killed his family members. But it was a little strange for me that someone like Starlight wasn't able to just be like, okay, let's put our differences aside, get this guy in the same room as Homelander, get him to kill him, and then we'll deal with this guy. Like, I didn't understand why like everyone was against Butcher and Hugh. Like, have you not been here for 2 seasons while Homelander's been terrorizing us and teaming up with Nazis? We finally found a way to defeat him. I thought everyone was just going to put their differences aside and get behind this guy.
I didn't understand why Starlight and everybody else were not so ready to partner up with Soldier Boy, because they don't know him like that. They didn't spend any time with him. Only thing they've seen is just the reports on the news and him blowing up and killing people. Starlight is a hero. She just had to stop the bad guy, regardless who it is.
And when I look at how Starlight sometimes, you know, is like, hey, let's not beat evil with evil. I think it does put people in a dilemma, and we're seeing people wander off in different paths where, you know, it's almost like Butcher is going the way of, I'm gonna beat, you know, evil with evil, fire with fire, and Starlight is sort of wants to go the path of, I want to beat evil by being good, you know, because if I turn evil as well, you know, what difference am I? But unfortunately, I do think that sometimes if you do stick to being good, you know, you can't beat evil. You know, it does put an interesting dilemma for the viewers.
Starlight. Speaking of Starlight, this season, and it seems like her story this season, at least in the beginning, began as, it seemed like a criticism to me of like a corporate consciousness where corporations act like they care about things. Like you see it a lot. Right now, we just saw it after June with Pride Month.
Yeah.
Every corporation has rainbows everywhere. We suddenly care about this thing. Pride Month's over, and suddenly we forget about all that stuff. So I think when we saw the idea of Starlight being promoted to the co-captain of the Seven, when we saw the CEO of Vought was giving her all these privileges and stuff, it was mainly in an attempt to cut Homelander down to size.
Set time with Samantha and we'll get you in. The schedule is pretty full, but try and find you a window.
I think she was getting like a lot of followers on social media, so maybe that was good for them. But I genuinely don't think this corporation suddenly cares about women when last season they were forcing her into these skimpy outfits and stuff. So I like that storyline with her in the Seven, because even when it comes down to it, when Homelander's like, oh, let's be in a relationship, that'll get the ratings up, they don't care that she's uncomfortable with it. They're like, it's the ratings, so go along with it.
Hashtag Homelight.
Cut!
So I don't think they really care about her, but I liked her story this season. I will push back a little bit on what you guys were saying about you know, defeating evil with evil, because Starlight, as far as I've seen it this season, I do not understand what she thinks is going to happen next, because she confronts Homelander with the tape that she has of the Flight 97, whatever. Yeah. And he says, okay, release it. If everyone thinks I'm a terrible person, then I'll just be a terrible person and I'll rule the earth and I'll destroy New York and I'll just, is that the world you want to live in? She's like, okay, no, I won't. But then 2 seasons later, she's going on social media saying,
most heroes don't care about you. They only care about their image, and Homelander is the worst of them. He's hurt people. He's done something to Maeve. And I fucking quit.
But I'm like, what's the next step? Have you figured out a way to beat this guy? Because being idealistic and standing up for what's right, but having no concrete plan, I think I don't know. I think it hurts the character a little bit because it makes her look like she is like not that smart. It's just that she's got a good heart. But I'm like, this is the boys. Like, you need to be practical. You need to have like concrete steps. It can't just be, I feel it's right. I'm like, okay, you feel what you feel, but what happens tomorrow? Like, let's say we take down Homelander's reputation. Told you what's going to happen. So what are we doing?
But I think I sort of do agree with Lily in the sense that I think if we look at Starlight and Butcher, it's almost like Butcher has this pragmatic sort of like way of dealing with things where he sort of comes up with a plan that we're gonna, look into a guy called Soldier Boy, and then we're gonna try to maybe see if there's something that can actually stop Homelander. But if you look at Starlight's perspective, how is she planning on beating Homelander? There isn't much. So it's almost like, is just being a good person enough, or do you actually need to be a monster to sort of beat the monster? Another sort of like group of people that I'm sort of liking is Kaminko and Frenchie. I think we're sort of seeing their relationship grow, but also have some rocky starts to it. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, no, I like the relationship between the two of them. I like that Kimiko's like, I think she's like finding her voice. That seems like it's going to be her arc moving forward.
Doctor, come! She speaks!
She obviously communicates a lot of emotion, even though she's not speaking. And she's got a lot of depth there. Frenchie, every season he seems to have like a side plot that like it ties back into what they're doing, but it's pretty much his own story. Like he almost has like another show that he's coming from. Yeah, it's almost like The Boys is a spin-off of another show, and he's got this like deep backstory, and we just keep getting pieces of it.
You must choose, Sergei. If not, I will kill both of them, and when you finish screaming, crying, I will kill you too.
So I like that. I like that they keep moving forward. They were pretty much doing their own thing, but I liked it, and I did like the musical number that they had in that one episode. I think it was a fun change of pace.
It reminded me of Umbrella Academy, the opening scene when people about to fight and they start dancing. I'm like, here we go. I'm like, what is going on with this superhero show where they just break down into a number out of nowhere? Immediately after that, you go to action full mode where now she's fighting for her life with no powers, and Frenchie can't help her. So yeah, it was a nice roller coaster ride. I enjoyed this scene.
Yeah, and it's almost like Kaminko is in a dilemma, of what's making me a monster? Is the V injection in me making a monster, or even without the V, am I still a monster? So it's nice seeing that sort of like her being challenged as a character, like not knowing what to do. And I think Frenchie is also going through something that's sort of like challenging him in the sense of, he's this good, changed person now, but it's almost like things from his past are now starting to come back to sort of like challenge him. And it's almost like he's going back to his old self where, it's almost like he's being a druggie. He's sort of like having this bad light on him. And I think Kaminko's trying to pull out the good in him as well. So it's nice seeing, something that's challenging these B plot or side characters.
And speaking of V compound making people bad, it was also what Starlight highlighted to her boyfriend Huey, that it's not the drugs, it's just you decide this is who I am, this is how I'm going to be. It's not the superpowers. But one more thing, guys, don't you find it funny how stupid Huey's powers are? Every time he has to teleport, he has to be naked. Can you not teleport with your clothes on?
It's The Boys, of course not. This is in line with the types of powers in the show. Like it's like a gift and a curse. No, I wouldn't want that power. I mean, it comes in handy at the orgy because everyone's naked anyway. But I was thinking about it. Like, if that was his permanent power, would he even be able to operate as a hero? Like, you can't just teleport into places naked. Like, what if there's children around and stuff?
Your dick's out.
Like, I think that might be a curse, unless this might be me overthinking it, but if you could grow your hair so long that you could braid it into underwear, you like knit it, because you take everything that's like part of your body, right? Your hair is your part of your body. Could you knit it into like a hair like speedo, and then you got yeah, then you can teleport. You can do your job, right?
Here's another awesome idea. How about you just tattoo your whole body into clouds?
Oh yeah, there you go.
Welcome to the land of idiocity. This is the kind of dumb shit we talk about. This is so
I'm loving
stupid.
it.
But what do you think of Huey's arc this season? The whole, I guess it was like an addiction thing. Him and Butcher basically were going through an addiction thing with the V24.
You shot up an untested drug from Vought.
You loved it. Really loved it. It was awesome.
I like the introduction of V24 because it gives obviously the boys a chance to fight on the level of heroes.
I think with Huey, I mean, I think the challenge with him specifically was sort of like the power dynamics in his relationship with Starlight, you know, in terms of, you know, Starlight being this, you know, superhero. And it also sort of like talks to society, like in terms of being in a couple with someone. Is it always supposed to be the sort of like the man that's more dominant than the female, or it can be the other way around, or people can be equal? And I think with him, the power dynamic is really challenging him, and because he feels powerless and at times can't protect Starlight.
Jesus Christ! All I want is to save you.
He does look at Temp V as an opportunity to sort of like be powerful and maybe be on the same level, if not more dominant or more masculine than Starlight, which is a challenging, you know, dilemma for him as well. But obviously, we see his choice, so that's interesting on Huey's part. Zoe.
I agree with you. And I was also wondering, when is it going to kick in for Huey? So I'm glad that reality finally set in. So yeah, I like that storyline and that conversation, pretty much realistic.
You always have to be the strong one. You always have to be so much stronger than me.
You said that it didn't bother you.
I know. But it does.
So when it comes to Butcher, I just feel like him knowing that he has like maximum 18 months to live, for him it's just freedom to be more reckless, don't give a shit some more, and just keep living the life at a high speed that he's been on.
With the whole, he's gonna die now, he's got like a couple of months left to live, I don't think that's gonna change the story that much, because Butcher's risking his life every day, and like I think 18 months for him, it might as well be 20 years. Like, this man doesn't have long to live anyway, so I don't think it's going to change the narrative.
We need that right now, when we can see that Homelander is also going to be on I don't give a damn, everybody loves me regardless of what I do. So we need somebody to also up that level of don't give a shit in order to be able to compete or fight Homelander, even like mentally be there on I don't give a shit level.
Maybe him having this fixed timeline could also be a redemption arc for him, that when he knows he's about to die, he can sort of like lower that guard, be human, and sort of like say, you know, that he cares for people instead of always having that mantle of, you know, I'm masculine, I'm the boss, and I always know what's right, which isn't always the best thing in certain instances.
I think the only time he will lower his guard and say, I'm wrong, I apologize, is like 5 minutes before he takes his breath. Yeah, on his deathbed.
Yeah, he definitely needs to at some point, because as much as at the end, what was his name? Ryan, the kid, picked Homelander instead of Butcher. In one way, you could argue that Butcher almost pushed that boy into Homelander's arms, because Homelander was willing to accept the boy, warts and all. Like, Homelander last season was so disappointed in this kid. He pushed him off the roof. He couldn't fly. This boy was this little pansy. But as much as he's disappointed in the boy, as much as the boy killed his mother, Homelander's like, nah, but I'll still be here for you. Like, I'm your dad. Like,
that's why I'm always gonna love you, no matter what happens, no matter what you do. I'm not going anywhere. I will always be here.
And then Butcher is busy trying to push the boy away to keep him safe, saying, I don't care about you, you killed the woman I love, whatever. And the unintentional consequence of that is that the boy is now Homelander's sidekick, essentially. So I think at some point Butcher needs to get that kid back. And the only way he's going to do that is by showing some sort of vulnerability. So in that in that one sense, Homeland is almost more human than Butcher when it comes to talking to the kid. So he needs to fix that at some point, or else that kid is gonna become a little evil Superman or something.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, because it's pretty interesting that it's almost like, in terms of the general archetypes, Butcher is the hero, sort of like anti-hero, and then Homeland is the villain. But when it comes to the kid, it's almost like it's roles reversed, right? Because Butcher is struggling with the fact that obviously the kid had a hand in, the person she loved dying, and we see a little bit more of the history of Butcher in terms of how things went with his brother, and we're seeing the similar thing happening with Huey, and potentially a similar thing happening with the kid. But obviously, when we look at Homelander's perspective, it's almost like he's the hero to the kid, because this kid is going through a tough time, but Homelander is human enough to understand what he's going through, because he went through the exact same thing. And the kid sort of like gravitates towards that, because in a world where it feels like no one understands him for being this for being this young superhero, Homelander is the guy that understands him the most and can help him sort of like navigate his way through that.
Let's talk a little bit about the rest of the seven, because Black Noir, I think, got a lot of interesting he got a lot of interesting direction this season. And then that ending was so heartbreaking. I was like, my man, I can't believe that he's gone. Like, I'm like, you're not gonna finally give me so much backstory and personality to this character, and then just take him out like that. Like, we get 1-2 episodes of development with these Looney Tunes sidekicks that he's got. I like the whole backstory. I like the relationship he had with Soldier Boy. It's interesting to me how Soldier Boy was like this tormenting presence that was the leader of his team, and then when Homelander comes in, who's also a tormenting leader, he has this wonderful relationship with Homelander. Suddenly they're best buds till the very end, and it's Soldier Boy being the reason why Homelander turns on him. It's like he can't escape the shadow of Soldier Boy his whole life. Even when he gets rid of him, Soldier Boy ends up being the reason. The one guy that likes him ends up turning against him.
I wish he didn't die the way that he did. I would have loved for him to get his revenge on Soldier Boy. I would have loved for him to die at the hands of Soldier Boy at least. Like, fight the guy, seek some revenge, punch him in the face just one time, something.
Yeah, it's obviously sad, because I mean, throughout the season, I mean, Noah is someone that doesn't really talk much, and this season we got to see him sort of like have a voice.
Let's buck up Soldier Boy!
Yeah, no, I definitely want more of him with those characters. Like, I like to imagine that those characters were always there. We just didn't see them. Like, because he always used to be doing his own weird thing in the side. So now I like to imagine that he was doing that with those characters the whole time. We just didn't get to see them. So, okay, let me talk about I made an allusion earlier to the fact that there was one part of the season that I think they dropped the ball a little bit. And I'd like to get your guys' opinion, because I feel like the whole season was great, but it felt like it was all building up to this confrontation between Homelander and Soldier Boy. And then we get there. Everyone's been working towards this confrontation. You think, is Homelander and Soldier Boy going to team up? Are they going to fight? They start fighting. You're like, here we go. And then the kid jumps in. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then every Butcher is like, oh no, he's going to fry the kid with this big laser. So I'm going to team up with Homelander against Soldier Boy. Maeve's the only one focused on Homelander, while Homelander's just smacking her around, takes her eye out. Everyone teams up against Soldier Boy. He's about to explode. Maeve jumps out the window with him. He explodes, but he survives. Maeve survives. She doesn't have powers anymore. Like, I feel like after all that build-up, like, what happened in that building? Like, I expected some carnage. Like, this is The Boys. Like, I expected, like, earth-shattering shit. And honestly, I was a little like, oh, that was fun. But, yeah, just a little disappointing.
I agree with you. I thought that New York City was going to be destroyed in the process, and maybe that's when they will most likely stop fighting. For the fact that they only fought in that one tiny little room and everybody changed sides so quickly, I was annoyed to the max. I didn't even think the fight between Homelander and Soldier Boy was even that interesting, to be honest. It didn't last long, like a couple of punches and it was over. I think they realized that they cannot have Soldier Boy and Homelander having a one-on-one fight with how powerful they are without destroying half of New York in the process.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting, but I think it's sort of like going with the theme of The Boys, because I always feel like, it's quite a season where even though the story is linear, it sort of like is volatile, and they have a small time frame to make a huge decision. And we're obviously seeing with Butcher, it's almost like he is going back to his good self and maybe wants to make up for lost times with his brother to sort of like protect the kid who eventually doesn't, sort of like accept him and is going to Homelander. And then obviously with Maeve, I mean, we have a whole backstory to look at with Maeve, with his relationship with Homelander, because I think with her, it makes sense why she kept on fighting Homelander, because she has a personal deal to, against Homelander. It's almost like all of these characters sort of like were united by one thing, which was obviously to be against Homelander, but all of their motivations are different. Soldier Boy's motivation is to just stick to the deal, and it's almost like his motivation to kill Homelander is because he's now all of a sudden disappointed in his son because of how he cares about stuff he shouldn't care of. But I don't think that's enough motivation to kill someone. So I do think that's a flaw in the whole storyline. But with Maeve's decision, I think I back it, and with Butcher's decision, I think it's justifiable. The confusing one is Soldier Boy's decision in the end. He's a man of his word, so maybe he's sticking along to that.
Yeah, no, speaking of that final interaction, I think maybe if there was a bigger loss, like, I'm not saying I wish Maeve died, but because I really liked Maeve's story, especially this season, like having Maeve's whole arc being, I need to take down Homelander, no matter the cost, if that means teaming up with Butcher, if that means teaming up with Soldier Boy, whatever it takes to get this guy. So at the very end, I thought the ultimate sacrifice would be to save everyone. I have to give up the thing I want the most, which is taking down Homelander, and I have to jump out the building. But with her surviving, then I'm like, now what? Like, what's your life's goal? To just go live my life, be happy? Hopefully Homelander won't find me. It just feels a little like, really? It went out with a whimper instead of with a bang.
Yeah, but I think she eventually got what she wanted. She wasn't able to take down Homelander fine, but she was able to escape Vault and leave the Seven, as she seemed to be over and done with it. She gets to start a new life with her lesbian lover, because they always say, oh, the lesbian. So she gets to go away with her lesbian lover and start a new life. And I actually did like how Ashley destined to help her at the end. When they saw the video that she wasn't actually dead, they deleted it because she has to escape. It's all just about escaping a Homelander.
I think a character we do need to talk about is Ashley, because it's almost like she's also going through a dilemma of, is she changing? Is she staying who she is, or is she being who she is because she's scared of Homeland? I mean, one of the scenes I found funny, probably the best scenes of the season so far, was when she was like, Ashley, take off that wig. And she's like, what wig? And then he has this face of like, I'm going to kill you if you don't. And then she takes it off and she looks like Precious from Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. No, outside finally matched her inside at that moment.
Yeah.
The thing about Ashley, I think Ashley's an interesting character because I think she started off as just like some low-level employee. I thought she was going to be there for one season, maybe a few episodes. Then she made it all the way to CEO. But it seems now that instead of a replacement for the CEO or for Stillwell, because first I thought her arc was going to be about how Homelander is degrading this organization. Before, okay, Vought was still evil, but they had competent people in positions of power. Then with Homelander coming through, he's just putting people he can control, and I thought they were just going to burn this whole business to the ground.
Yeah.
But with that final scene and her deleting that thing, it might be a sign of like the winds of change coming through, like everyone finding where they can fight. Like her whole thing is, I can't fight Homelander head on, he will kill me, but I can pull these little strings behind the scenes, and that can be my contribution to the overall fight.
And I think another important character we should probably look into talking about is Victoria Newman, because as much as she didn't get a lot of airtime this season, from the start we're sort of like seeing her, make Starlight acknowledge that she knows that Huey knows she's the head popper. Not the head pops, the Corinas. And we're seeing her, have an influence throughout the season, making a deal with Homelander, and at the end of the season, sort of like running for president, I believe.
That scene, I was so scared for Starlight because I literally thought Victoria was going to pop her head right there and there. I was waiting like pop it. Not because I want Starlight to die, just because I missed the effect of watching heads pop.
Yeah, I think we're going to get more heads popping next season because they've set her up to be one of the main people they need to take down. I hope she comes back. I like the actress. I think it was an interesting role having her tied to the ex-CEO, Stan Edgar. I think the idea that she gave Compound V to her child, the idea that she was aligned with Homelander, like the idea of her and Homelander working together, especially to the extent that Homelander's helping her get into the White House. He's sending the Deep to go drown the ex-vice president and all of that stuff. So I'm like, those two together are very dangerous. That's a formidable enemy. I think the idea that she's got this fear for her children and all of that, like she's evil, but she's willing to resort to evil. I don't think she has like evil intentions. Like I think the way they're gonna get her is through compassion and really like, or maybe Butch is just gonna threaten her child. But either way, I don't think she wants to be on Homelander's side. I think she thinks this is the best course of action. So I think there's a chance she could actually change sides and join up with the boys.
Oh yeah, I do think it's sort of like a temporary alliance she had with Homelander to serve her benefit, and it's going to be pretty interesting what powers his sort of like her daughter has. If Victoria Newman's powers is just popping people's heads, why doesn't she do that to Homelander? Or people are going to know it's
Dude, but I just think because Homelander is the main character, nobody's going to be popping his head. Because if you pop Homelander's head, he will be dead. I don't think his head will regenerate. I think if you pop it, will be over. So nobody's killing Homelander. That's just a sad part of it.
If he's dying in the very last episode. One person we forgot to talk about, because honestly, he's probably the dumbest character in the entire show, and that's the Deep, and his whole plot line with his new girlfriend and his love affair with an octopus. Like that was ridiculous. Like this man stumbled headfirst into probably what he needed more than anything, which was a competent woman that could get him on track. Yes, she was cutthroat and ruthless, and she was willing to go along with all Vaught's evil stuff if it benefited them. But considering where the Deep started off in the beginning of season 1, sexually assaulting Starlight in the 7 meeting room, I feel like the idea that he got into a committed relationship with a woman that's like, yo, bruh, just say what I tell you to say and things will be fine. That was like best case scenario for him. And then he threw that away for an octopus. Like I feel like next season it's just chaos for this man.
The Deep. Oh, Jesus. I don't like his character at all. His relationship with animals in the ocean, from saving the dolphin and killing it in season 1 to not getting a blowjob from an octopus. Like, what the hell? It's just too much to take. And the boys keep pushing and pushing this character and doing all these absurd things. And I'm interested on how much more absurdity are we going to get from the Deep.
Yeah, I think before anyone has to talk about the Deep, you sort of have to have a deep side, a deep, geez, English. It's sort of like a huge side to sort of want to talk about it because he's such a compelling, confusing, sort of like cowardice character. But, some of it is justifiable because, who can stand up to Homelander? But, I think even without Homelander, he still is like a pawn and someone to just be embarrassed about because he's so bad, man. But, we love to see it.
Forward, a lot of things have been set up. Obviously, Homelander and the Sun. Soldier Boy's still alive somewhere. Maeve's still alive somewhere. The boys are going to be targeting Victoria Newman.
That bitch is definitely gonna go.
So moving forward, I think personally they might go a little more political with it. Obviously, The Boys is a very political show, but it's more concerned with like social politics and like social media and just like social politics in general. Whereas I think they might get into like actual government stuff because obviously we're going after Victoria Newman. So we might get some commentary on the corruption within government itself. And I think with Homelander and his son, it'll be interesting because I think Zoe was correct when she said she thinks the story is going to be focusing on how social media targets information to us. Because I kept thinking, okay, Starlight released that information about Homelander.
Yeah.
How does this man keep any sort of public image going? And I think that final scene shows us that there's some people that just won't believe it. They'll just be like, nah, that's fake news. That's nonsense. We have our own news. We have our own perspective. And essentially, it's this like dividing of America or the public in general in their views of these two sides. So I don't know. It might all be ramping towards some sort of final conclusion in the next season or maybe the one after that. But I feel like this could go on another 3-4 seasons if they really wanted to. Because this season, especially that ending showed me if they want to, they can kind of just reset everything. And it's like, yeah, everything changed, but nothing really changed. And Kimiko lost the powers and then she got them back. And the boys were fighting each other and then they're all back together. And I'm like, okay, you could actually keep this going a long time if you wanted to. But the way everyone's like getting divided and getting set up into these two teams, it seems like it is gearing up for some sort of final confrontation.
Yeah, I think it's quite fun because it's almost like in a lot of what happens in The Boys, there's always a challenge for the characters, and that's what I love. I think in all the many characters that are in The Boys, you can look at one character and understand, what dilemma they're in, and that's amazing to see. And it's almost like exactly when you think that everything has cooled down, a new sort of like problem or villain pops up in Victoria Newman, or and then it raises a question for the next season: who is going to be the person that they're fighting? Is it Victoria Newman? Is it Homelander and the kid? Are they going to work with Homelander? Are they going to work with Victoria Newman? Where is the story going to be heading in that direction? Could Butcher be the new biggest villain that they have to actually defeat? Who knows? Yeah, I mean, a good series is one that keeps us questioning not just about one character, but it's almost all of them. Like we don't know what path they're going to go, and only time will tell.
Yeah. It would be nice to end the season with Kimiko speaking. Just speak. She said one line this season, but I'd like us to just have a paragraph next season.
Yeah, no, I think she's definitely gonna speak at some point.
Imagine Butcher with Homelander's powers. Yo, they'll be best friends. Two assholes in a bar. That was it from us, guys. Thank you so much for joining us here in the hangar room. Me, Zoe, your boy Lelo, and our new boy Richard, as we are discussing the season 3 of The Boys. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Later.